Hello and welcome to MLW Confusion. I'm your host Rob Kammer, bringing you all that you may or may not need to know about Major League Wrestling and its television programming. This week, we are going to look at MLW Presents Eric Bischoff Presents One Shot. Eric Bischoff's, I would call it like a big return to wrestling advisory executorship, but he then just like snuck into NXT like 3 days before this event. Either way, though, we're going to talk about that, whether we have the 35th iteration of the NWO or some other biker-themed gang coming along. But first, let's talk about the news. Actually, we're going to start the news off talking about Eric Bischoff. The rumor is that MLW is very happy with the response that MLW presents Eric Bischoff Presents One Shot turned out. Whether that's goes along with the actual fan consensus or not, that's remains to be seen. But they're very happy with the buzz that Eric Bischoff has generated and is possibly looking to bring him back in for further events. Again, I'll leave that up to you whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I will just move along. In other news, this one slipped through the cracks, but it was listed a couple weeks ago that Brett Ryan Gosling, the victorious BRG, has signed a new deal with MLW to remain with the company for the foreseeable future. And I think this is an utterly great idea compared to some other news that pops around the newswire every now and again. BRG has shown himself to be a valuable member of the MLW roster and a guy that's putting the pieces together to being a very entertaining, well-rounded performer. Obviously, he's got some good seeds planted with his character work going on right now. We just need to get some other things to click, in my humble opinion, of course. That being said, he's also very young into the business as well. And so, some of these things don't come together overnight, but I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with MLW in the future. And, despite me rolling my eyes at the Rogue Horseman's name, they have my attention, and we will see how that turns out as well. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's talk about Eric Bischoff coming to One Shot, the man who may or may not have had any good ideas since 1996, has done his fair share to, despite success in WCW, bring two wrestling promotions to their nadir, and now is pretty much profiting off of an anti-AEW grift. So let's see what he does. On one hand, this is a brilliant strategy by MLW because it brings eyes to the product, and by implying that Eric Bischoff booked this show, if it's terrible, well, it's Eric Bischoff's fault, and he's not coming back. And or if it's great, we have another quasi-heel authority figure going along with El Jefe and Selena De La Renta, and I don't know, does MSL still book? Is that still a thing? Whatever, man. Anyway, Eric Bischoff Presents One Shot. Of course, we're going to spend the first 20 minutes fellatiating the man. He's a genius. He brought us the NWO, literally, that's the first nearly full quarter of the show is just really putting over how awesome Eric Bischoff is. He comes out to the crowd is truly appreciative of his existence. Bischoff's just kind of yeah, worship me. Oh, but I can't be worshipped without you guys, so good job. When somehow it already gets worse with the Filthy Bros coming out, Filthy Tom Lawler and our favorite fast food breakfast sandwich. By proxy, the worst thing Filthy Tom Lawler has ever done. They ask some work shoot comments, bro. And so Bischoff gets kind of, pretend upset and decides matches need stakes. So breakfast fast food sandwich thingy, his golden ticket for the MLW Championship is now on the line during his match with Donovan Dijak later. So more work shoot comments, they're gone. They put over Bischoff's latest creation, which is a Gravity Gamble. 5 people like in one match, 5 briefcases. Gotta find yourself the opportunity for the World Heavyweight Championship, and that is going to be Akira, Mads Kruger, BRG, Trevor Lee, and Matthew Justice all participating in that match. I'm hoping that there's a picture of Scott Hall in one of those briefcases, and I'm actually wondering if they hadn't secretly brought in Vince Russo along with Bischoff to, come up with this here thing. Anyway, that's going to be at Kings of Colosseum next month. From here, Cruel, Mads Kruger interrupts. He puts over the fact that Contra is the ones running MLW, not Eric Bischoff. Bischoff, though, has an insurance policy if they're trying to threaten him, and it comes in the form of Baba Thunder. That's right, the former Babatunde, former Commander Aziz, man who is best known for forgetting how to pin someone during a professional wrestling match, whose primary gig is being tall. He is here. He is Eric Bischoff's insurance policy. Looks like we're just going to have a match to start that party out, like 20 minutes into the show. So yeah, Mads Kruger versus Baba Thunder. We got big man strike battles. They're grappling back and forth. Commentary is pooping all over Baba Thunder's WWE run, which admittedly was terrible, which I don't know why that, in that case, I don't know why you'd put that over on your television screen when he's best known for being terrible, but I guess it worked for Domino's, so cool, I guess. We're brawling outside the ring, going back and forth. Cruel just repeatedly rams Baba Thunder's head into the ring post. Repeated corner splashes inside the ring until Baba Thunder hits a big side slam because Cruel went to the well one too many times. For no good reason, Baba Thunder is going to the top rope. Why a 7-foot-tall man feels the need to go to the top rope, I'm not entirely sure, but the important thing is that Cruel gets up there, they fight for a moment, big super play off the top. From there, that's not the end. We have a chop off, which I'm not even sure why we even need that at that point. Cruel locks in a rear naked choke. Babatunde drops, kind of like Samoan drop. However, undeterred, Cruel sits up like the under-freaking Taker, locks in the rear naked choke once again, and chokes Baba Thunder out to obtain the victory. Your winner, Mads Kruger. I will say, as much as I pooped all over Baba Thunder in this match, it was a fun match, mostly because it was short, but so it was a nice little sprint for the most part, pretty inoffensive overall. I think it's hilarious though, and very on point for Bischoff to have a 3-minute match after 20 minutes of promos. But for better or for worse, we're not done yet. So despite beating Baba Thunder, Kruger gets the mic and basically says you're a fighter, fight for us, or leave in a body bag. Yeah, that's your choice. And Baba Thunder denotes that he will hail Contra, and it looks like Contra's got themselves another giant. We will see how long he lasts in the group, because the last time Major Stable brought nabbed someone special, they lasted that set of tapings and then mysteriously disappeared, never to be spoke of again in the form of Gene Snitsky. So we will see how that goes. So Bischoff sneaks up on commentary. He's in charge. He's making changes. It's gonna be a party. Backstage, Walter Hauser, Stingray himself, is with the Andersons. Walter Hauser puts over Paul London because Paul London had a hand at training Hauser. I'm going to point out that Hauser looks like a homeless man at this point. I'm assuming he's got this stuff going for one of his roles, but he's got a mustache. He's got kind of a bushy sideburn thing going on, but the sideburns aren't that far down on his face. And yeah, it just basically looks like I wandered backstage and just started having important conversations with the talent. Except I didn't have the luxury of a camera crew following me around like Walter Hauser does, but him and the Andersons are not getting along, mostly because, Paul Walter Hauser is basically calling them BRG's bitches, doing his dirty work for him. When Eric Bischoff, who's all over the show, obviously is going to wander over here, that we have our introductions between the parties. Paul Walter Hauser introduces the Andersons as lackeys, because obviously Eric Bischoff doesn't know what a Brock Anderson is, despite working extensively with Arn for a number of years. But whatever. In the meanwhile, Bischoff is like, okay, cool, we're talking a little bit. That's fine. Matthew Justice doesn't have a partner tonight for his spin the wheel match, so maybe you want to fill in for that? And everyone's like, cool, let's do this. In the meanwhile, Alex Kane wanders over, and he's like the only voice of reason on this show. He runs down Eric Bischoff, and that is on Beaumaye. We are finally ready for our second match of the evening. It's a rematch from over a year ago as Ava Everett makes her return to MLW. And I'm going to put her over for actually bothering to do some promos to hype up her match with Delmi Exo, because that's something like MLW is not very good at hyping. And, well, let's face it, they didn't hype her up very well, despite her hyping up this event. But she is battling Delmi Exo. Delmi is joined in the ring by Jesus Rodriguez, Cesar Duran, and a Lucha Ghoul. Delmi just starts the match off hot, though. She just starts off with a variation of a super kick, a savate kick, if you will. But things quickly go back and forth. Everett is starting to focus on Delmi's neck. We get a neck breaker for 2. Delmi fights back with a variation of the cross-legged fisherman suplex. That gets a 2 count too. That was nice. A super back suplex off the top, and Everett's down for a minute, but comes back to hit a cutter for a 2 count of her own. Ava spends way too much time mouthing off, eats a clothesline, followed up by the Delmi driver, and your winner, Delmi Exo. After this entirely too short a match, Cesar gets on the mic. He talks smack about Bischoff and putting over he's in charge of MLW and MLW's for the fans, all the renegades, if you will. Exo takes the mic and challenges Janai Kai to Lucha de Apuesta, hair versus title. Delmi's hair is going to be on the line versus Janai Kai's championship. Backstage, Mr. Saint Laurent is with Donovan Dijak. He's got some paperwork he's gonna take care of. Don't forget to take care of this. We don't know what it is. They just wander off. Cesar and Bischoff are hiding in the boiler areas of the venue, and Cesar wants to know if we can get some HLA in here, because that's timely. By HLA, though, he totally means hot lucha action, so I am down for that. That's actually more timely and more my style. Bischoff decides, well, yeah, we can do that, but let's raise the stakes arbitrarily, because that's what I do, is arbitrarily raise the stakes. And so it is going to be the mask and title of Mystico on the line as he battles Trevor Lee tonight. Following this, we have Bobby Fish versus Alex Kane with Faye Jackson and Mr. Thomas. This was a fan vote a la Taboo Tuesday, and we got variations of kickboxing and various MMA rules for this match, and it looks like it's going to be UWFI rules. TKO and submissions are the primary forms of victory. There is an arbitrary time limit for the match that doesn't quite get announced, and they don't really the commentary talks about the point system, but the ring announcer does not. But both individuals start with 15 points, and points get deducted over the course of the match for various rule infractions, things that I don't know, doesn't make it look like you're trying to go for the match. So rope breaks actually will not submit a point, but if you escape a submission via rope break, even though rope breaks aren't really a thing, you don't have to break for the ropes, but if you get to the ropes instead of counter your way out of the hold, you lose a point for that. So in theory, you can lose by decision if you run out of points. Nobody's noted to be a judge or anything of the like, so I guess it's just the referee doing things, because all refs are biased and have an inflated sense of self-worth, of course. Anywho, so yeah, the UFI Rules is the winner. We get graps to start things off. Finally, some graps tonight. Kane though starts throwing suplex. Fish goes for a roll up, and there's no pins here evidently. Force of habit, so I'll forgive him for that. Fish finally just stalls outside the ring until he finally gets to pick an ankle and goes for an ankle lock. We get our first faux rope break off that batter. Kane loses a point. Kane comes back, however, and they both fall through the ropes. Fish is wobbly at this point, but he does charge inside the ring. And from there, we get the straps down, a big power bomb followed up by a brain buster, and Bobby Fish cannot make a 10 count technical knockout. Your winner, Alex Kane. From there, Kane gets on the mic. He runs down the Rogue Horseman. Bischoff pops up on the screen. He talks about like how he doesn't feel in charge unless he gets to fire someone. And since he's in charge tonight, he better feel like he's in charge. And so the victim of said firing is arbitrarily Alex Kane. Alex Kane is fired. Security goes to escort him out of the ring, and Kane just starts chucking them around like they're, referees or Bobby Fish or something of the like, before Mr. Thomas calms him down and they all get to leave for a bit. And so I'm going to throw out that this match was rather clunky for whatever reason, and I don't know. And so the way it unfolded, I don't know if Bobby Fish actually kind of wobbled himself when they both took the tumble out of the ring, because he really wasn't the same after the fall outside the ring. And so I do hope he's all right. I'm hard on Bobby Fish, admittedly so, but I don't wish any sort of ill will or injuries to actually happen to him. So hopefully he's not concussed. This was just all how the match was laid out. But yeah, it did kind of the match kind of went downhill quick after that, for the most part, both figuratively and literally, because the match didn't last too terribly much longer. And then let's talk about this firing here. I know this is going to be an angle, but man, this was out of nowhere and for no apparent reason. Which I'm not going to just say this because I'm a big fan of Alex Kane, and as I said, the way it turned down, you got the fact that you have to suplex people on the way out the door, means there's going to be more to this, but there was literally no reason for this, whatsoever. He just randomly fires Alex Kane. He didn't fire the Filthy Bros for making their work shooty comments, but Kane just gets to go without any sort of goodbyes or anything. I think it was kind of weird and stupid. But what do I know about these things? I am though oops, as I punched the microphone. I'm going to let this kind of sit there and stew for a bit. We'll see where it goes. I'll give them the rare benefit of the doubt, just to see if Kane gets to work his way back, or how that works out from there. After this, COZYMAX is backstage with Akira. They are going to kick Contra's ass. Yes, totally going to kick Contra's ass. Kick Contra's ass, and then have a bread party. So down with that. Quick little segment to go into our next match. However, before we hop into the next match, let's take ourselves a pause for the cause. Let's get ourselves a coffee machine, an energy drink, some WWE merch. I don't know. Just stay tuned. We'll be back. Un momento. Hey, folks. MLW Confusion's become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, or, well, let's go crazy, and you can even get WWE licensed apparel, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. All right, we are back with the middleweight championship match as Trevor Lee fights Mystico. Mystico's middleweight championship and his mask is on the line, so this is going to bode great because Eric Bischoff has removed the mask from at least 3 luchadores. But we'll see how this plays out. We start the match with a reluctant handshake, so we get some sportsmanship before the graps start. Lee does a variation of the Fit Finley skirt trap off a baseball slide by Mystico. Backdrop on the ring apron by Lee. If you didn't know, that was the hardest part of the ring. Lee dominates the match with a lot of strikes, a lot of clubbering action. We really don't get out of first gear for a majority of this match until Mystico does try to pick up the pace again, but Lee cuts him off with the snake eyes. Lee gets 2 off a Shining Wizard and then goes for the mask. Mystico comes back briefly with a power slam, gets a 2 count off of that. Trevor Lee hits his modified flipping power slam, gets a 2 off of that, and he's confused by that. We also get a crucifix pin also too. From here, Lee just starts throwing these strikes that just totally airball, and it looked like he wasn't even trying to hit Mystico, so things got weird, extra weird really quick. Lee goes up to the top rope and he gets caught with a variation of the solo Spanish Fly, which of course commentary didn't call properly, and or flipping hip toss, which is what the solo Spanish Fly really looks like when it's done by Mystico. Either way, though, the important thing is Mystico gets the 3 count. Following this, Cesar comes out and says that Eric Bischoff failed and MLW is everyone. Renegade Lucha. Renegade Lucha. Woo, woo, woo. But yeah, so I thought this was going to be match of the night. I was really excited. I didn't think Mystico was going to lose the championship, and then later we'd find out the mask was on the line too. But I was excited for this match because Trevor Lee can go. I am bored to death of Mystico's reign, but at least he's I don't think I consider Trevor Lee an MLW talent yet, but he's finally defending against someone that's not from CMLL, so it wasn't going to be this half-hour epic, and the match didn't go anywhere. The match was nearly 20 minutes of just clubber, and I expected more out of Trevor Lee, and I expected more out of Mystico, and the match was fine. There ultimately wasn't anything wrong with the match, but it just felt flat. It didn't feel like there were actual stakes involved for the most part, and they really didn't ever take it out of first gear. They just kind of went through the motions, or that was how I felt about it. So I was rather disappointed on that turn of events, because I really thought that was going to be the match of the night, because as I said, both competitors can go. Trevor Lee's just kind of a freak of nature anyway, and he's got a really good mind for the business. Following this, allegedly, there was a match for our favorite fast food sandwiches golden ticket. I don't know, my monitor went out, and I mean, whatever, man, I don't actually care. But the I guess the important thing is that the golden ticket was safe, and it stays in the clammy grips of our favorite fast food breakfast sandwich via disqualification. As I said, I didn't pay attention. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. Following this, now that I'm paying attention again, we have the Andersons versus Matthew Justice and Paul Walter Hauser in an Easy-E roulette match. I will put over the fact that these are kind of some of the stupid things I enjoy in wrestling. That I like the Easy-E roulette, or Raw roulette, or any other variation thereof. And so that's what we're gonna get on here. Of course, it lands on New York City Street Fight, like there was any doubt otherwise. But whatever, man. This plays into most of everybody's wheelhouse for the most part. Justice likes himself a good arena-wide brawl. Paul Walter Hauser is, very early in his professional wrestling career per se, and then the Andersons are, just some rugged brawlers overall. Though CW definitely has an underrated technical side to him as well. So that is what we are going to do with this, folks. So let's see how this turns out. The baby faces start off the party hot. We get a mistimed 10 punch. Yeah, Paul Walter Hauser's kind of having some issues on that front, but nevertheless, baby faces persevere for a bit. The brawl outside the ring and a cameraman is taken out. Get a do-si-do corner splashes. The Andersons attempt to walk off, and they get cut off at the stage area with Christmas-themed weapons. So whoever says there's a war on Christmas, there's a misnomer. There's no war on Christmas. There is a war, and we are using Christmas-themed weapons. However, Matthew Justice is taken out, and now it's 2-on-1 on Paul Walter Hauser. Chairs are introduced to this thing. Spinebuster by Brock through a ho ho ho, Merry Christmas plank. I think it just says jolly, actually. I couldn't remember. I didn't bother to write part down. But the important thing is we got a spinebuster through a plank. However, Matthew Justice saves the day, so the match continues. The babyfaces fight back, but the Andersons roll out of the ring. Justice goes for a dive, and he misses and just crashes through the table, like knees first. It looked like it hurt when he hit the ground. But that leaves Paul Walter Hauser in the ring with a ring board. He barely is able to get C.W. Anderson up. And does lazy period John Cena's FU when he wasn't even bothering to drop to the ground. He just tossed him from the shoulder carry position, and that's what Paul Walter attempted to do here. Missed most of the board, but got enough of the board that it broke, so it's all cool. Brock is in the other side of the ring. He is leaned up against the turnbuckle, whose pad had been kind of pulled away earlier in the match. Walter Hauser goes for a running, slow-motion stinger splash and jumps face first right into the bolt, knocking himself unconscious. And Brock pins him for the 3. So, hey! Well, that was relatively painless. Actually, I didn't mind the match. The Andersons won, of course, and I didn't hate this match. Was it great? No, but there was just enough weird Gaga stuff that it was kind of a nice palate cleanser for compared to some of the other matches of the night. I will kind of once again the one thing I try not to rag too much on people's appearances just in general in the world of professional wrestling, because variety is the spice of life. Variety makes for good wrestling, but man. Because Walter Hauser just wore street fight clothes, which is good. It's a street fight, whatever. But the Andersons dressed in their wrestling attire, and Justice dressed in his normal wrestling attire. Stingray really just kind of looked like a weekender shindy guy that just comes wrestles once a month on Saturday for Ian Rotten, and then disappears back to Waffle House for the rest of the month. So, he definitely looked like a guy who was just playing wrestler for this match, and that disappointed me, because, he'd have some fun stuff going on with his appearances in Battle Riot and his cage fight with Tom Lawler, so, those things were fun. And, none of this match was horribly terrible, but, he did himself no favors in this match, not being able to carry CW, and just the fact that he kind of looked like a homeless person. Anywho, so that is going to lead us to our main event of the evening. MLW Tag Team Championships are on the line as Contra gets their rematch against COZYMAX. COZYMAX were the former champions before Contra defeated them for the championships. Contra is, for those of you not aware, being represented by Akira Kwan and Minoru Suzuki. There's a little awkward pause as the entrances are getting started. It's for the fans in the arena, it's basically there's a miscommunication, but in reality we see Contra following COZYMAX up the stairs in the arena, and specifically Sendai Death Squad members, and Akira just comes up out of nowhere with a steel chair and just stage dives off of one flight of stairs down to the bottom, which was fun to see. And COZYMAX is none the wiser as to the peril they may have faced. We do eventually get matched though. Things start off hot with Akira Kwan and Okamura. Those two have had COZYMAX and Contra have history, but explicitly Okamura and Kwan have history together, and then Kojima and Suzuki have a very long history together. But yeah, so things start off hot with Okamura and Kwan before Kojima just takes everyone out for fun. Contra takes over with some cheap shots, and we're brawling around the ringside area. Okamura and Kwon are back in. Sling Blade backbreaker into a reverse STO, only gets 2. And that's a sweet maneuver. We saw him do that last month. And like I apologize for not like catching more Tristan Ty matches, which is who he wrestles as outside of the MLW umbrella. So like I'm not sure if that's a regular move of his. But like, one, he does it enough it looks like it is, and two, it's still pretty freaking sweet, so he should do it as a regular move, or heck, make it a finish, because that's how fancy it is. That should be his finisher. However, Kojima breaks up a Suzuki submission hold off that. We get a hot tag, repeated machine gun chops on Suzuki, and man, you think Kojima would learn by now, like, this doesn't hurt Minoru Suzuki. This just like turns him on. Like now Suzuki is very much aroused because chopping him, like that's his kink, man. And now he is angry and aroused. Suzuki is not really amused with that. So we're going to try other strikes. Akira Kwan and Okamura are back in. We get double forearms. Gets a 2 off of that. Kojima gets the save, preventing a loss due to those stereo forearms. Cozy cutter attempt broken up by Suzuki, only gets a 2 count off that one. Lariats for everyone, followed up by an avalanche style cozy cutter by Okamura on Kwan, gets the 3 count. Your winners and new MLW Tag Team Champions, COZYMAX. It is raining bread at this point. Suzuki isn't amused and like picks up like a bunch of bread and just like wads it up and throws it away. Kojima is eating bread, stuffing in his tights. As like the celebration goes on, we are going to have a bread party, which will be amazing. And this match was serviceable. I'm glad they finally like had our world champion in the main event. However, I was not as thrilled with COZYMAX winning the championships back because I hate when like belts just go back and forth between the same people. It makes it look like you don't have a real division, which, let's face it, there really isn't much of a tag division in MLW at this point, outside of COZYMAX, the Andersons, to a lesser extent, the Boma Fight Club, and Contra, of course. And two, I'm also not a big fan of dual champions. Like, I don't like guys holding like 2 belts in one company, because I feel like that kind of buries the other divisions as well, because like what's stopping them from taking all the belts, like, and especially in the case of like a babyface, like there's really not a great point to having a babyface like holding extra titles outside of I assume this is just part of the promotional machine, because Kojima does make appearances throughout Japan and has wrestled for CMLL and made appearances on Mexican television as well. So I assume it's more along the lines of that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it from a creative standpoint as well. So that's kind of how I feel, but there's nothing wrong with the match. I did think the match was fun. Was it main event worthy? I mean, it was, just because of who was involved in the match, but like it didn't feel necessarily quite like a main event style match, especially when some of the other matches, I felt surpassed it. But we're not done yet. We're 9.5 tenths away. Sure, I guess it'd be 0.95 out of 1. I don't know. Math is not my strong suit. That's why I just scream into the void with a microphone. Anywho, Eric Bischoff is on the roof. He's got a stack of papers with MLW printed in big letters on the front. He's on the phone with someone, and he's talking to someone that we don't know who it is, but he's like, yeah, I got it. I'm going to protect them with my life, as we fade to black. And so there we go. MLW presents Eric Bischoff presents One Shot. Not a fan. Not a fan. Like I've said like before, that the real saving grace for MLW has always been its in-ring action, and like everything just felt weird and off tonight. Like I joked that if your best match is Babatunde and Mads Kruger, like, dude, that was the first match and that was your high point. And that's a misnomer. I don't think that was the match of the night. I definitely think like the women's match was better. I wish it would have gone on longer. But like the sentiment was there that like even like guys who are usually having decent matches, like everything just like felt flat, and like and I think that was just partially just because like everything seemed to be like under the shadow of Eric Bischoff. And I know he's the special guest, and, you know, I could say what I want about him, but he's still a big name in the professional wrestling industry for the work he's done with WCW, and then, you know, and his character work in WWE, and the less we think about his TNA run, the better overall. But like, I felt like he overshadowed the event, and because he overshadowed the event in such a way, like, it brought everyone else down because he had to like have his fingers in everything, which again, I get, he's a big name. You explicitly brought him in to produce this show. But like, everything was just kind of like stipulations for the sake of having stipulations. It didn't really make sense, narratively speaking. Like, there was really no point in like Mystico putting his hair on the line. Like, that just seemed weird. The firing of Alex Kane was out of nowhere, and like, you know, we're not following that up on that yet. And I mean, and we won't until the next YouTube show, which I think is Christmas Eve, is what I've been told. Like, that just seemed weird. Trevor Lee and Mystico fell flat. They never got out first gear, so like, what should have been a fire match up there, you know, our favorite fast food breakfast sandwich is still employed by the company for some odd reason, though I'm hoping TNA picks him up so we don't have to see him ever again. But we're still gonna have a match at Kings of Coliseum when he called his shot, so we will see how badly I just throw my computer screen and, you know, give up on MLW after that. So so that, you know, but I see online, the online was very mixed. Like, you either loved it or you hated it. I definitely fell into the latter. Like, usually I try to like say like, well, it wasn't bad, it was at least average, as long as the bell, like, during the match types. So like, even tonight, like, I felt everything was flat and it was sub C level, which I feel is like a terrible look if you're trying to bring extra eyes to your product by bringing in a big name from the 1990s to bolster your product and bring eyes to the show. But hey, again, a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's cool. You know, this is the beauty of the internet, so yeah, feel free to throw hate at me online, because Lord knows I got enough different social media platforms for you to lambast me. In the meanwhile, just be sure you're doing it at the appropriate spots and not like while I'm having a deep conversation with Irvin West or something of the like. Anyway, so yeah, let me know what you thought of that. Like, I do appreciate you giving this here thing a listen through all the way through. Stay tuned for the plugs and the best ways to help support this here podcast, and hopefully things will be better in the near future. In the meanwhile, though, of course, I'll see you all next week. MLW Confusion is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. MLW Confusion is part of the Urban Wrestling Network, and you can check them out and check out the Major League Pod on YouTube at Urban Wrestling NW. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is also helpful. Word of mouth of advertisement is very important for small podcasts such as this. Social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter and Instagram are at the Nova of Cass, THENOVAOFCASS, and Facebook is at MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual chip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova. Or if you prefer more bang for your buck, you can go to patreon.com/Casanova, CASSONOVA, whereas for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Alex McCarthy, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the description to find some affiliate links for, well, WWE merch, coffee machines, ice makers, and much more. For business inquiries such as ads and sponsorships, please email rzkamer, that's Kamerer, at comcast.net. Thank you for listening.